Hello and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Criterion, and this time we take a look at Harmony Korine's film Gummo from 1997, coming to the collection on 4K UHD. Criterion have been featuring more modern filmmakers lately in the collection. Last month we saw the Teen Apocalypse trilogy from Greg Araki. Now we get Gummo, the debut feature from Harmony Korine. Harmony cut his writing teeth by his collaboration with Larry Clark on the 1995 feature he directed called Kids. It's a controversial film that looked at the world from the perspective of a New York adolescent called Telly. Now this was a bit of an eye-opener at the time, as it dealt with sexual awakenings in adolescence in more real terms, and dispensed with the romanticism normally associated with this. Gummo is a 1997 American experimental drama written and directed by Harmony Korine, his directorial debut, and it stars Linda Mance, Max Perlich, Jacob Reynolds, Chloe Sevigny, Jacob Sewell, and Nick Sutton. The film is set in Ohio, in a Midwestern American town that had been previously struck by a devastating tornado. The loose narrative follows several main characters who find odd and destructive ways to pass the time, interrupted by vignettes depicting other inhabitants of the town. Gummo was shot in Nashville, Tennessee, on an estimated budget of $1.3 million. Now, it wasn't given a large theatrical release at the time, and it failed to generate large box office revenues as a result. The film also received mixed to negative reviews by critics, and generated substantial press for its graphic content and stylized, loosely woven narrative. In 1997, the New York Times named the film the worst one of the year, which is understandable. Harmony Korine's directorial debut has little or no plot. The movie's filled with disturbing imagery as well, and at times it feels like you're viewing a grainy home video. But of course, that is all the more reason to give this film a watch. Some years later, Gummo remains a striking and original piece of independent cinema. Now, the film is set in the aftermath of a violent tornado, an environment established briefly in the film's opening. This film exists in a liminal space, caught halfway between dystopia and a stagnant Midwestern town. Throughout the movie, Korine strings a series of dark vignettes together through the actions of Solomon, the film's adolescent protagonist, and, of course, its narrator. He travels alongside his older friend, Tumbler. Tumbler sees everything. Solomon says he's got what it takes to be a legend. The two wander around town aimlessly, riding bikes and hunting stray cats. There's also a group of young sisters, the oldest played by Chloe Sevigny, also appearing. Now they live by themselves in an old house. A shirtless boy with a bunny hat also appears in the film multiple times. Early on, he urinates off a bridge onto the freeway below. Gummo's a loose feel to it. Other 90s independent debuts shared a similar structure to Gummo. For instance, Richard Linklater's Slacker, which of course is in the collection, and Kevin Smith's Clarks. They were both slow-moving and light on plot. But Gummo's tone is much darker and often repulsing. Korine fills the world with bigotry, hedonism, nihilism and sexual perversion. For instance, old men prey on young girls outside of the supermarket. Young children wander around by themselves, yelling obscenities. In one scene, Solomon and Tumbler approach a kid named Jared Wigley. Rumour has it that Jared has begun to hunt cats. If it's true, he'll be a threat to Solomon and Tumbler, who sell their dead cats to a local butcher. "I do it mostly at night," Jared says, his voice weak and anxious. The audience shares his discomfort. He goes on to explain in detail the experiences of living with his catatonic grandmother. "I hate that shit," Jared says. Now, Gummo was shot in Korine's hometown. Many of the characters in the film are played by non-actors, and there's a decent amount of the film's dialogue that is ad-libbed. Korine kept the cameras rolling continuously during the shoot, and the candid dialogue that took place made its way into the final cut. Now this all adds an element of realism to the film, mixed in with the absurdity and avant-garde tendencies. Gummo's not far removed from real life, and that makes it all the more affecting. But despite the grimy and disturbing moments in the film, Korine manages still to weave humour and charm into Gummo. For instance, there's a shot of Solomon lifting weights in the mirror set to Madonna's Like a Prayer, or an exciting scene in which a grown man aggressively wrestles a chair to the ground. That will amuse audiences. Life is beautiful, Solomon says. Without it, you'd be dead. Now, while Korine's acute awareness of the zeitgeist would eventually lead him to godfather the Tampacore genre with an Eric Black comedy crime thriller, Spring Breakers, Gummo remains his purest artistic statement, the epicentre of all of his creative endeavours, the font of which every other work in his oeuvre will spring. However, in spite of the depravity it depicts, and in spite of the borderline exploitative relationship it itself has with its subjects, there is a quiet tenderness to Gummo that exists alongside the nihilistic radicalism that permeates it. Korine isn't interested in shocking the audience as much as he's trying to place them squarely in a milieu that they most likely know nothing about. And yet the famous scene, of course, of Solomon eating spaghetti and drinking milk in a bathtub, which is filled with filthy brown water, resonates exactly because of how familiar and mundane it feels. A young boy sitting in a dirty bathtub, messily eating his dinner while his mother tries to get him clean. It's decidedly odd, but for some reason also there's a strip of fried bacon taped to the bathroom wall. And it's slightly uncomfortable. But seen through Korine's eyes, this scene also becomes strangely touching. It's a snapshot of normalcy amidst a world that has been thrown into disarray. It confronts us with the fact that the people we tend to look down on are, in fact, human beings too. And maybe that's where the crux of Korine's provocation truly lies. Now, Gummo is going to repulse some viewers, and it'll bore others, but it's certainly unique. Now, whether it deserves to be in the Criterion collection, and indeed also on 4K, given the graininess of some of the footage you'll see in this film, that in itself will warrant some extra discussion. It's an overall decent presentation, being from a more recent digital restoration and approved by the director himself. But nonetheless, it's here, and as such, it will be seen by more viewers than it ever has before. Gummo comes to the Criterion collection as a 4K combo package and Blu-ray with the following special features. New 4K digital restoration, supervised and approved by Harmony Korine, with 2.0 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack. We've one 4K UHD disc of the film presented in Dolby Vision HDR and one Blu-ray with the film and special features. New interview with Korine, conversation from 1997 between Korine and the filmmaker Werner Herzog. Split screen, projections episode from 2000 featuring Korine in conversation with the host John Pearson. We have a trailer and, of course, an essay by film critic Carlos Aguilar and an appreciation by filmmaker Hype Williams. And the striking cover art for the package is illustrated by Joe Rosa. Gummo has a running time of 89 minutes and comes to the collection on Tuesday the 22nd of October, a spine 1238, and it will also release in 4K here in the UK. Next time on Let's Talk Criterion, we look at another Janus contemporary, and this time it's about dry grasses. So until then, from me, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.